when do you need to decide that you need to open this marketing channel compared to Google Ads, which is again very popular amongst personal injury lawyers? And there are other channels like social media. I hear a lot that these days TikTok is converting really well for people. So why and how and when should I decide as a law firm owner I got to start my SEO?
As a law firm owner, it depends on where your market is and what your goals are. If your website is not loading quickly, then people are just going to bounce right off of it. So making sure that your website speed is optimized, having the right picture files on there, having the right size of photos and images and videos on there so that your website isn't slowed down, making sure that your website is built without a whole lot of extra CSS and things that are just clogging the system is going to be huge.
Hi everyone. So today we have a very special guest. She is Lindsay. First of all, she's a certified project manager, EMP, and also an SEO expert who works exclusively for law firms. So she could be one of our best guests today, and I'm going to give her a real hard time so that she can answer all the questions which you guys always ask. Welcome to the show, Lindsay.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So Lindsay, I'm just going to start off with a little bit backstory. How does project management get connected to SEO?
So it's a funny story. I had started my marketing journey at a law firm in downtown Raleigh and essentially was a temp there. So while I was there, I was helping to update the website. They had just gone through a big merger, so there was a lot of website stuff going on. And while I was trying to figure out what I was going to be when I grew up, I went and did project management training and figured out that that really resonated with me as well. So I now had this experience with both SEO and law firms as well as my PMP. And I happened to meet my now business partner, Len, who had started Optimize My Firm, which was doing SEO for law firms. And Len is brilliant. He really understands the ins and outs of SEO and how it applies to the legal industry, but he has absolutely no knack for spreadsheets or the ability to grow things and keep things organized. So when he and I met, it was like a perfect union because I came with some understanding of SEO and law firms, but I also have this project management piece. So as we decided to work together, he brought a lot of the strategy and I brought the project management tools together so that we could scale from a business of 3 to now having about 20 people on our team and clients across the country.
Well, that's great. So that actually is a very, very nice thing because obviously any project, whether it's in IT or it's civil engineering, anywhere, you need to have project management skills to effectively manage anything. So speaking of law firms, right? One of the, I think, highest searches, her search keyword on Google, I think it's SEO for law firms, specifically in legal niche.
Yes.
So why do they look for SEO so much?
Well, it depends on the type of law firm because there are some law firms where you get your clients by referrals and word of mouth and previous relationships. And there are other law firms, specifically like personal injury, where you might not know anybody who has been in a car accident and has needed a personal injury attorney. So a lot of times, car accident victims or just accident victims in general are going to Google to try to find a lawyer to help them out because they don't have anywhere else to turn. So law firms need help because personal injury law in particular is really competitive. And if you are working in a saturated market, then you need to have the upper edge so that prospective clients can find your law firm before they find your competition. So SEO becomes an incredibly important marketing tool for any law firm who is looking to gain more clients by using Google.
Right. So speaking about gaining clients in a competitive market, a lot of people still don't know the difference between local SEO, GMB optimization, and just the SEO, which could have been, for the whole country. So could you please give your insight or your definition, the easiest definition, which the managing partners can understand?
So all these pieces work together under the SEO umbrella, and there are a lot of acronyms out there that are pertaining to local SEO or GMB optimization, or now with the AI optimization or GEO, and just ignore the acronyms. Essentially, what you are trying to do is put content on the internet related to your business so that Google understands who you are and what area you serve, so it can try to connect you with the people who are asking questions that are related to whatever it is that you do. So the bottom line is Google can't recommend your business or your website or your Google business profile or show up or have your business show up on AI unless they have a thorough understanding of who you are, what you do, and who you serve. And all of that happens by having content on your website that answers the questions that people are asking. And then you have other companies that are doing the same thing that you do. So you need to find a way to build your credibility. And the way that Google understands your credibility is by the relationship that your website has with other websites on the internet. And that's called a backlink relationship. So all of that kind of falls under the same umbrella, whether you're looking at it from local SEO or AI or just SEO in general. Having good content on your website, having good content about your business on other websites or podcasts or social, all of those things work together to help enhance your digital footprint and visibility.
Right. So when do you need to decide that you need to open this marketing channel compared to Google Ads, which is again very popular amongst personal injury lawyers? And there are other channels like social media. I hear a lot that these days TikTok is converting really well for people. So why and how and when should I decide as a law firm owner that I got to start my SEO?
As a law firm owner, it depends on where your market is and what your goals are. So having a real honest look at who you are, what makes you different, what kind of market you're operating in, how many cases you want to be bringing in every month, and comparing that against how competitive your market is. So for example, if you're in a relatively small town and you are happy bringing in 2 to 3 clients a month, there aren't a whole lot of other law firms out there that are competing for the same clients, then you probably don't need SEO. You can probably just create content for your website, have enough out there that Google understands where you are, what you do. But if you're in a larger market, let's say you are in a city of 100,000 people or more, and you have dozens of other competitors, then you need to be doing something so that your prospective clients can find you online. Because I guarantee that everybody else who's on the first page of Google is using SEO strategies and techniques. And whether they're doing that in-house or outsourcing that, usually they outsource this because it is kind of a specialized field. But again, it comes back to looking at your market and how saturated you are. There are other factors at play as well. If you are a niche law firm, so let's say that you're a personal injury firm that only does bicycle accidents, and you're already plugged into the bike community because you cycle and you go to the events and you have an active social media presence, that might be enough to get you the cases that you're looking for every month, and you might not need SEO. But if you are looking for your standard motor vehicle accidents and you're competing against everybody else in your market and you have some competition there, then SEO is going to be necessary if you want to grow.
Right. And also, let's move into the first part where suppose I have my website built by somebody and that's on WordPress or maybe custom built on some really new technology, right? I want to start with, say, putting in the content, right? So before I put in the content, what strategies do I need to ensure that my on-page SEO is up to the par?
Well, for lawyers, it's really important, if you're doing this on your own, to try to take off your lawyer hat and really think like a prospective client. In the personal injury world, you have people who are approaching your firm at one of the worst times of their lives. Either they were in an accident and are injured, or somebody they know and love has just been through this horrible experience and they need help now. So yes, you want to have a clean, polished website, but you need to have the information on there that reflects what they need to know in this time of need. And that might be having your law firm's phone number big and bold so that they can immediately reach out to you for help. And then also making sure that they understand as they go to your website that you are a personal injury lawyer and this is the area that you represent. This is the market that you work in. And then you want to answer some of the questions like, do I actually need a lawyer for this type of case? Or what's the process? Or how much is this going to cost me? So think about those initial questions that somebody's going to have and make sure that the answers are really easy for prospective clients to find. And that's going to be helpful both for your prospective clients, but also for Google to understand what it is that you do, what market you serve, and whether or not you're going to be able to help the people that are looking for that information.
Now, I met this lawyer who had this problem. She was in Canada. She was serving to refugees and she wanted to move towards commercial immigration, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, she said, I got to do my SEO, but the problem is that I don't get any clients at all, right? I've been doing it with a company. They said, you're going to get clients within 3 months,
Yeah.
right? And there are a lot of people who say, for SEO, minimum time required is 3 months, and then you start getting some traction, and then it's a long play, but you still get clients. But after even 3 months, she was not even getting impressions on her website. So now she fired them and she was trying to do it on her own. So she said, I have purchased SEMrush for $200, right? And now I just say immigration lawyer near me, and then I put the keywords and it gives me the cluster, and then she was pretty confused about it, right? So first of all, let's talk about, if I go on SEMrush, it is going to give me some clusters, and these clusters are going to be of different types. What are those types, and how I can use those different keywords anywhere on my page, or do I need to build different pages for each type of keyword?
So our strategy internally is actually a little less rigid. So we try to make it as organic as possible. We have an understanding of what words people are using as they're searching for an attorney, whether it's personal injury or immigration. The bottom line is that when you're looking at these keyword clusters, they're essentially just words that are related to each other based on a search that somebody might have. So yeah, that can be useful to generate some ideas and, for content as you're building out your site. But there are also some really great ways that you can just figure out what people are actually searching for and then incorporate that into your website. So if you go to Google and you search H-1B visas, if you're looking for a corporate immigration attorney, you can also look at the people also ask section on Google to see what the top related searches are, and then develop content that is focused around that information. And yes, it's true. SEO does take time, at a minimum 3 months, but especially when you have an attorney who's an immigration lawyer who can serve more than just a single location. And if she's competing on a national level, that's going to take even more time and more resources, because she's not just competing with a local market. She's competing on a national level where there are already established law firms who have been ranking for immigration for years. So what she's going to need to do is really focus heavily on developing good content that is unique, hasn't been written before, and is really in depth to cover the information that people are trying to find. In addition to that, she needs to make sure that her website is competitive in terms of credibility. And that is going to involve establishing backlink relationships, maybe getting some PR out there, and really getting some what's called link juice, but essentially credibility flowing back to her website, because it's the only thing that's going to make her website stand out to Google as being more reliable and credible than the other information that's already out there. So it is unfortunately a little more complicated than taking a keyword cluster and spamming your website with all of these words on different pages.
Yeah. And you just talked about authority. We're going to come to the backlinks because it's, I think, part of the off page. But suppose, right, I'm a lawyer. I want to rank on every single keyword, right? And I'm thinking, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to write every single keyword within a certain area. Let's talk about California, right? So I'm a lawyer in California, personal injury lawyer, and I keep on building pages, right? Slip and fall accidents in Simi Valley, slip and fall accidents in Woodlands, slip and fall accidents in XYZ Pasadena or whatever, right? So what I'm doing is I am building thousand pages, right? Just to make sure that if somebody is in Pasadena and he or she searches for slip and fall attorney near me, I should be ranked first. Does that strategy really work?
It does. And so it is actually a good strategy, because you want to make sure that you are available for anybody who is searching and is searching near them and is specifically using the city name. If they just write near me, then there's a little bit of fluctuation in there. But yes, if somebody is looking for a slip and fall accident in Pasadena, it's helpful to have a page that is titled Slip and Fall Accidents in Pasadena. So that way Google understands that you do offer this service for this particular location. But again, it needs to be in-depth content that's answering questions that people are asking and have the credibility behind it to outrank all of the other slip and fall accident in Pasadena content that every other lawyer has written. So California, once you said California, I was like, oh, this is going to be tough because it is so competitive out there.
Exactly. Now, suppose I build the pages and now I have an heading one where I have magically inserted a keyword, or I just put somewhere because Gemini told me that you got to put the keyword in H1 and then you have to put another keyword in H2 and then write the content. And I just went on Google or ChatGPT or Claude. Claude is more popular these days, and I wrote Claude, I want to write this content, right? Now that content magically emerges. Now everybody's doing the same, right?
Yeah.
How do I differentiate myself within that page from everybody else?
That's a great question. And the best way to go about doing that is to try to steer away from the AI support as much as you possibly can, because AI can only pull from what already exists. So yes, you're going to be regurgitating the same stuff that's already on the internet 1,000 times over. The way that you get the competitive edge is by incorporating things that aren't necessarily out there, thinking of new content, and inserting things that are hyper local to your area. That if somebody from Glendale goes there and they see a picture of their Glendale dog park on a dog bite page, then that is going to trigger AI and is going to stand out as unique content and that's going to give you the upper hand there. So create content that hasn't been written 1,000 times over, sprinkle in some things that are hyper local, and then don't neglect your offsite SEO as well. Make sure that you have content in a variety of places, because AI is going to pull from a bunch of different websites, not just yours. And that is a big differentiating factor from just traditional SEO. So making sure that your digital footprint is wide and has some great unique content out there.
Exactly. And now you see, say, I have done all this. In fact, I just want to give a little bit of a backstory here, because there was a person came on my podcast. He said that basically I have signed up for an SEO AI tool that helps me do all my SEO work, and I fired the SEO agency. They were charging me $2,000 a month, whereas it just takes $50. And down the line, 3 months later, when he goes on the Claude and he asks Claude why my conversions are not happening on the website, Claude says, you don't have YMYL content. What is YMYL content, and why AI fails to deliver that particular content?
I am not familiar with that acronym, so I can't.
I'll explain. Actually, for industries which sort of are scrutinized a lot, like legal industry, healthcare, finance, for example, you need to have your money, your life content, which needs to be highly accurate, because you can't just keep generating slop and put it on your website, because Google will actually scrutinize you more than anybody else out there. So an e-commerce page which has written my product does wonders to your weight loss is not going to be scrutinized. But if you write that this is the case I basically worked on, and this is the case study, but that case study is fake, so Google's not going to let you go. That's what happens.
Right. And now that you say that, of course, yes, Google issued out an algorithm update years ago where they did add additional layers of scrutiny to anything that impacts your money or your life, and especially in the healthcare market. And they put severe limitations on especially the ads that you see on PPC. So there are a lot of regulations around that. They prioritize websites that are .gov websites or things like WebMD, and will prioritize those because they are vetted and more accurate. So yes, with law firms, there is a little bit more leeway because we aren't giving legal advice. You're not allowed to give legal advice on a law firm's website. So it's legal information, which is a lot more generic. So Google doesn't scrutinize it to the same extent as it does those medicals.
Yeah. But then again, if you're generating all the content from AI, you don't exactly know what it is actually generating, right? And obviously, within those beautiful lines and the text AI has produced, you might find legal advice there, right? That's the biggest issue. Now, moving on from this issue, I just want to know what comes under off-page SEO, and please define what do I need to improve my off-page SEO.
So off-page SEO is anything that you're using to expand your digital footprint. And this is especially important with AI now, because AI is looking for information about your brand, not just information that is answering questions. So your off-site SEO is going to include any listings that you have in legal directories. It's going to include thought leadership articles that you might be publishing on places like LinkedIn or Attorney at Law magazine, or any other credible resources where you can position yourself as an expert or authority. It's also going to include things like your backlink profile. So any backlink relationships that you have established with other websites that are either related by geographic or by content or topic. So any of those backlinks that you establish there, that's going to help with your SEO as well. So anything that's enhancing your digital footprint, podcasting is another great way to do some offsite SEO. So all of these factors work together, both for Google organic as well as for the AI search results.
Right. So speaking of these backlinks, right? Suppose I want to get a backlink. I do understand that I will be in some of the directories already. Like I might be in a bar site, and then some of these sites do not give you a link back. And I think the term is no follow. How do I gain those follow links without spending a dime?
Without spending a dime is difficult because it always takes money, and you don't necessarily need to pay for the backlink directly, but you need to be doing something that is generating some attention for your site. So the best links that you can get are natural links or earned media, where your law firm is doing something. You either had a big win that you're talking about, or you're doing something within your community and you're getting natural press and they're linking back to your website. But it takes a lot of effort and it takes some money. And whether it's spending the money on the backlink directly or on the event that you are talking about within this press release or getting that earned media, there's going to be some sort of investment there. But there are some strategies where you can get some backlinks relatively inexpensively. One of the strategies that a lot of law firms have used over the years is developing a scholarship program. So they will offer anywhere from a $5,000 to $500 to a $5,000 scholarship, and then they'll approach schools and say, "Hey, I've got the scholarship opportunity. Would you mind linking to it from your website?" So that's one way to go about it, where you're not paying for the link directly. And that's one that people have used over and over again. It's kind of becoming archaic. But there are some other similar strategies that you can use where you are sponsoring a local sports team, or you are going to your Chamber of Commerce and getting a link from them by having that membership there. So there are organic ways that you can get those without just paying to be on the Mommy and Me blogs.
Yeah. And then also, it also depends on the relevance of the link, because you can't just, get a backlink from, I think, a casino website, because Google might think that's irrelevant. But then there are people in the market who basically sell these links, right? They say, okay, what you got to do is you got to spend like $2,000 or $3,000, and we're going to give you a lot of links, right, from different various websites. Why is it bad, and why you should not go into that path?
Yes, please, please, please don't do that. It will end up hurting your website more in the long run if you are paying for these dime a dozen links, because and they're not going to help you at best, and at worst, they're going to hurt your website, because a lot of these websites are those casino websites or locksmith websites, or are spammed out and have no relevant content. So those, if Google sees that you are getting links from these places, they are going to disavow those links and potentially penalize you for them, because they see you as trying to game the system. So Google has, for a long time, said, no, those links are no good. They're not going to be helpful for you. But yes, the best links that you can get are going to be topically relevant. So if you can get cited in a legal magazine, or from your bar association or your Chamber of Commerce, or anywhere that is topically relevant, even if it is a website that is about cars and you're talking about car accidents or car insurance, that's going to be more helpful than getting the really spammy links back to your website.
Yeah, that's a really good advice, because connecting with, if you're into car accidents, so it makes sense that you basically get backlinks from those. Now, suppose I see a competitor, she ranks on the first page, and I want to beat her, right, in ranking.
Yes.
And not just ranking, because I also hate her, right? Just absolutely beat her. Now, how do I know which websites are linking to her, so I can approach those websites and say, oh, please link me. I have better content than her.
So we talked about SEMrush a little bit ago. They have a backlink analysis tool that you can use. You plug in your competitor's website and it'll show you all of the backlinks that are going to her site. And a lot of times it's probably because she paid to get those backlinks. So you don't need to do a whole lot of schmoozing to say, hey, link to me. You just need to pay them $500 and they'll give you a link as well. And at best, that is going to help you level the playing field, so long as you have at least as good as or better content on your website to link to. So that's a good way to get a foundation. But the way that you're going to get the competitive edge is if you can get better backlinks. So look at what competitors are doing in other markets. And so let's say that you are in Tulsa and you look and see where somebody in Chicago is getting links. That can generate some more ideas for more powerful links that you could get, and that will help you blow it out of the park. So again, making sure that your content is really great first, because that's the most important piece, and then getting backlinks to that content will help it rise up to the top.
So I basically get the idea that obviously you need to research on your competitors because they might be linking to some really easy websites that you can get linked from. So obviously SEMrush does help there. Now suppose I have a best friend, right? And he's probably a criminal defense lawyer, right? And I sit down with him and I'm like, you know what? I can give you a backlink from my website and you can give me a backlink from your website. Let's just trade links.
Yeah.
Can we do that?
Yeah, absolutely. You can do that. So especially if you are linking to them in a way that's natural and organic from your website, sure, create a reciprocal backlink relationship.
All right. So then if there's somebody I know has a huge authority when it comes to their website, and I want to get a backlink from their website, right? How do I ask them that? What do I do for them in return that they can offer me that backlink?
So let's say that you know them, they're not your best friend, they're not your worst enemy. What you can do for them is you can write a great article for them and say, "Hey Joe, I saw that your website, it has some in-depth coverage of this. I just wrote this really great article that goes into even more depth, and as a follow-up to that, would love to give you this article so that you can post it on your website. But if you can just link back to me from the article, just go ahead and leave that link in there so that people can find me as the author, then that'd be great. So that way they're getting something beneficial for it. They get more content for their site, so long as it is really good and robust and related to whatever it is that they do. That could be a great strategy. So give them something useful for their website in return for that link.
Well, that's actually what you should be doing. You should ask, and a lot of people allow that as well. Of course, you can return the favor. Now, you talked about podcast, right? I think I have shot about 27 podcasts now, and all of them were lawyers. I think there are one or two people in the marketing side, specifically in the same niche. And trust me, nobody has asked me to link back to their website.
Really?
Right? Although I always post every single podcast and its whole transcription, the blog type content on my website, that's what we've talked about, and this is where you can watch it, and the video is on my website. But nobody has asked me this. Why is that? Do people do not know how important are podcasts?
I don't know why they aren't asking, but I'll be the first. I would love it if you would link back to my site. But I think people are shy about asking for backlinks, and it's like you're asking for a favor. And everybody knows that. I mean, everybody should know, especially in marketing, that backlinks are important for your SEO. So I think it might lean too far into asking for that favor when we've already gotten some visibility by being on your podcast itself. So I think people need to get over this hurdle of feeling shy about asking for backlinks because it is so important, and it's such a great tool.
Yeah, exactly. And this is something you have spent time on a podcast, and if you're not linking back to your site, it doesn't really help because Google doesn't know you were there unless that person actually links back to your website. Now, when it comes to podcasts, right? I also want to know, there is a certain schemas which people don't know about, because when you check the schema on different websites, they might not even have an FAQ schema. Whereas for a podcast, there should be a different schema, right? Could you explain why schemas are important, and when there's hidden content, why we should actually publish it off page so that crawlers should know?
I wish I could speak to this in more depth. I mean, schema markup is important because it sends an extra signal to Google for what something is, especially when you want Google to know some additional information, but you don't necessarily need the public to know. So it's not something that somebody visiting your website would be interested in, and it kind of just clutters up your page. So schema markup is a way for Google to understand some of the behind the scenes, and that's about as far as I know about schema markup. I've got a great tech crew that gets into the nitty gritty on that, but I wish I were better versed on it.
And that is the reason that as a lawyer, I think you should spend time on lawyering, fighting cases, whereas you should hire a proper team, because a lot of people think SEO is about content. SEO is about somebody just finding backlinks for me or putting the content and then writing the content. But it's a lot of things behind the scenes that goes on, and developers are needed, and then optimizer, the speed optimization. So coming to this point about speed optimization, how important is the speed of my website?
It is so crucially important. It is one of the core factors that Google is looking at, because if your website is not loading quickly, then people are just going to bounce right off of it. So making sure that your website speed is optimized, having the right picture files on there, having the right size of photos and images and videos on there so that your website isn't slowed down, making sure that your website is built without a whole lot of extra CSS and things that are just clogging the system is going to be huge, because Google is just concerned with the end user. They are not concerned with the tech of your site just for the sake of being concerned with the tech of their site. They want to make sure that they are sending people to the best, most helpful, easy to use websites that are out there. And if your website is loading slowly and people are leaving it, then Google sent them there, then they're not going to keep using Google. So yes, absolutely make sure that your website loads quickly, that it's mobile friendly, and that it's optimized for all the things that Google is looking for as it's determining what is the most user friendly website in addition to the most accurate.
So obviously web core vitals are important. I think they're extremely important for you to, make sure they are at least hitting 90 above, right? In the green part. But then it's not just that. It's also in the new update, we have seen a new term that came up, which was EAT, right? So what is EAT, and what does it do for my website?
It just kind of goes back to what we've been talking about, where you have the information, the authority, and the trust. So making sure that you have the expertise, and that is going to come from Google, and having those backlinks that Google is recognizing to build your credibility, as well as having information on your website that's going to be useful to users, and then building the authority and the trust so that Google can discern you as an experienced person who's giving credible information, and that Google's users, when they visit your website, are getting the best information for the questions that they're asking. So again, it's just having updated information that's reliable, that's accurate, and then backing that up with credibility through those backlink relationships.
So suppose if I have a personal injury law firm and I deal with, and also I have in the same firm, I also serve divorce clients, right? Now, I as a founder, right, constantly posts about personal injury cases on my LinkedIn. Maybe I use Reddit, or maybe I use any other forum. Now, does that dilute my authority in eyes of Google when I do that? Or do I need to first fix one niche? Or what do I do? Do I basically ask my partner to build authority in family law, and I'll do personal injury? What do I do about that?
So that's a really tough question. And a lot of it will depend on what market you're in and how competitive your market is for each of those practice areas. So personal injury tends to be more competitive. It tends to be more lucrative because those are going to be the higher value cases. So we always recommend to optimize more for the personal injury. And this is especially true when you have a shared office and you have your Google business profile that can only really be set for one specific type of practice area. Whereas if you set your Google business profile to a generic law firm, it's not going to be optimized for anything. So a lot of times, especially in more competitive markets for certain practice areas, you really do need to focus more on one side than the other. That being said, you want to make sure that your website has content built out for both practice areas that is really robust and in-depth, covers all the questions that people need to know, both for personal injury as well as for divorce. And then, yes, have a broad digital footprint where you have credible information for both of these practice areas. So Google will tend to lean more one way than the other when it is trying to figure out exactly what kind of law firm you are, but always lean into whatever is going to be the best ROI for your firm.
Right. Now, you talked about giving answers to relevant questions which people are really asking on the web. And FAQs plays a big role in it, right? So if I want to generate a lot of FAQs for different service pages, or maybe your blog content or your homepage or static pages, how do I research on the questions which people are asking so I can actually put them on my website? And Should I put short answers, long answers? What do I do?
So that's a great question. There are a couple of places that you can go to help generate what FAQs to put in. One that I already spoke to was going to people also ask. So if you type in car accident lawyer in Savannah and just go ahead and Google that, Google will give you all the search results for car accident lawyers in Savannah, but they'll also have a block that says people also ask. And those are going to be the most searched questions that people search next if they are typically searching for the car accident lawyer in Savannah. So that's a great place to generate ideas. You can also go to AI and ask Perplexity or Grok or whatever your AI of choice is to help generate questions that people typically ask if they are looking for a particular service. And then as you go to create your FAQs, you don't want them to be too long. You want them to directly answer the question in the first sentence as concisely and accurately as possible, and then maybe have an additional sentence to follow it up. But it doesn't need to be multiple paragraphs long. If you have that much information to share, then go ahead and include that information in the body of the page itself as opposed to in an FAQ.
Right. That's actually very helpful because a lot of people do not know how to research about the questions. And I want to add on here one tool that has helped me a lot, and that is Answer the Public, because it also gives you a wide variety of questions which people are asking on social media as well. So you can actually check that out. And I'm not sponsored by them. So
yeah, they are a great tool. Also not sponsored by them, but yeah, that's kind of a fun one just to play with in general.
Yeah. So now I'll move towards local SEO. So suppose I have my GMB, right? And I want to basically rank on the first three results, which I believe is called local map pack or 3 map pack, right? So
people call it
if
million, yeah.
yeah. So I wanna go there, right? So what is review freshness? Do I need to post consistently on my GMB? How well should I update it? And what are other things that I need to do so I can somehow rank there?
So to rank in the local pack or the local map or whatever you want to call it, where you search for an attorney and the first 3 ones show up, that map, it comes down to like 3 factors that are pretty basic factors across the board. One is your review profile. So you want to make sure that you have solid reviews. And that doesn't mean that you need to be 5-star, but you want to be 4-star and up for sure. And then your review, so that's your review quantity. You want to be getting a lot of reviews in. But yes, you need to have review recency is another important factor. So you can't just do one giant review push. It needs to be built into your operations to consistently get reviews, because Google does look at your review recency and how often you're getting their reviews. The other thing that Google is looking at is your organic rankings. So it's a lot more difficult to get into that local map if you are on the 3rd, 4th, 5th page of Google. If you are not on the first couple pages, you are not likely to show up in that map at all. And then the last factor is user proximity. So Google is going to show search results that are closer to wherever it is that the user is searching from. So let's say that you have an office in downtown and you are far away from a residential area. You're not going to show up for people who are in the residential area 10 miles away. So it's actually more advantageous to put your office away from other law firms where it's more competitive, fighting for the same space on the map, and closer to where users are actually searching for an attorney. So the closer you can get to residential areas, the better. The further away you can get from other law firms, the better. And then keep those reviews coming in.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's a great strategy. I didn't think about it, honestly. But there's one big problem that I've seen. A lot of firms nowadays are just working remotely, right? Specifically the ones which are smaller in size. To save cost, obviously, the higher ends, and then you have to manage an office, put the secretary there. So they're like, all right, we're gonna just buy a virtual address, right? And then they build their GMB, and then somebody told them that you can select the service areas, and it would be the same.
Yeah.
Is it the same?
It's not the same. So it's a challenge. It's you can get a satellite office. And this is one strategy that a lot of law firms use if you have everybody working remote, or if you just want to have multiple locations. So buying a hole in the wall office location for a few $100 a month and putting a sign on the door, having some furniture in there and setting it up where you could potentially meet a client there. That is a strategy that Google allows and will count as a location that you can use to set up a Google business profile. What they don't allow is the shared space offices and like the WeWorks. So you need to have a verifiable office that is your location in order to set up a verified Google business profile.
Yeah, and I think there are great advantages of having a physical location, a storefront, because Google actually does favor those people because it thinks they're local, which is important for a law firm, I think. So now I wanted to, talk about, the term which I get a lot of emails for, and they're like, your website is not GEO optimized. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, and your website is not AEO optimized, and then there is your website isn't AIO optimized. What are these terms, and why are people constantly emailing me for these types of services?
So it's funny that you asked that because I'm going to be giving a presentation all about this at the upcoming PILMA conference in May for any attorneys who might be out there. Come by, say hi. But this is an opportunity that a lot of marketing agencies are stumbling into, where they are screaming that SEO is dead and everything needs to be AI optimized, and that you need to buy this extra service in order to be able to rank
Mm,
anywhere. And all these cases are
mm,
coming through AI, and it's a load of hogwash.
mm,
And it's unfortunate because they are prying on this fear factor and the
mm,
newness of AI
mm,
and the lack of understanding of how AI actually works. So it's important to have an understanding of what AI is, how it works, how it's similar to SEO, and the very few ways that it's different. And in a nutshell, AI and AI optimization is still pulling from content. So they are still looking at the content that's on your website to make sure
mm,
that it is in depth, that it's answering the questions, that it's meeting the user intention, as well as answering the exact question that's being asked. The one thing that law firms need to be doing in addition to traditional SEO to make sure that it's falling in line with what AI is looking for is having more offsite content, being on podcasts, having the
mm,
thought leadership articles elsewhere, being engaged in social. So having that additional aspect is all you really need to be doing if you've already been doing good SEO in the past. So yes, 99% of these emails are total scams. You don't need to fire your SEO agency and hire an AEO, GEO, AE, whatever acronym they're trying to push, because it's essentially the same thing, but
mm.
probably worse, just in a different package with a different acronym.
Yeah, and that's a very interesting point because I thought that this could be a thing. I think a year ago, and I was like searching for my blog on Claude. I'm like, okay, uh, find me the best blogs on this topic, right? And I was surprised that out of 10 times, maybe 3 or 4 times, my blog would rank on the first part, and then it would de-rank me to 7 sometimes 6. So it's very unpredictable. You can't say that you're gonna rank on the first result every time the generative AI is going to give you. So a lot of people are getting into this trap, and that's horrendous because people are actually trying to make so much money through the hype, which I think every time it happens. Now you see, there's one big challenge, right? Because in previous years, when there was no AI overviews on Google, I remember a lot of people had this strategy where they would write really good blog content, and
Mhm.
then they would rank those blogs and then try to pass their authority to their service pages, and then obviously that would strengthen them up. But this time, because people who are asking questions, most of them would see the AI overview, and they would, if they're interested, they might click on the side links, but mostly they would take the information and then leave, right? Do you think this strategy where you write a lot of blogs, a lot of articles, a lot of case studies, and then try to rank your service pages through them is viable anymore?
I don't. And going back to what you were saying about people looking at the AI search results and then leaving, that is really not deterring any meaningful traffic from the website itself. So I wouldn't be worrying about chasing that at all. Because in those situations, in those zero click situations,
Hmm.
people are typically looking for information as opposed to doing a transaction.
Yeah.
So at that moment, they aren't looking to hire a lawyer. So chasing after that traffic that isn't ready to hire and that they're still in the information stage is kind of a waste of resources. So I would focus more on having some informational pages that people can look to find what they're looking for, but also focusing on those transactional pages as well that are designed to convert prospective clients as they land on your website.
And exactly the main the point of having a website is, unless you're a blogger, right? The point is that you got to get cases, and service pages would get you cases, not blog pages, right? You can route them through them, but obviously, if you're not, if your service page is weak, you were not getting cases previously as well. So it doesn't really matter. So
Right.
even if the traffic is dropped today, But the conversions have gone higher because obviously people are now well informed beforehand by thanks to AI, and now they're ready to buy, right? So it's shortened that path where they would read 3-4 blogs from different websites. Now, about this, what do you think? This is just a question from two people who are thinking about how AI is going to disrupt everything. I think if Google just puts the AI overview at the end of the page and let everything roll, for example, obviously they have to earn money, so the ads have to be on top, and then the organic pages and the AI overview. Because if I want to get some sort of information, I should be willing to scroll down to the last result.
Right.
Do you agree with this?
I think people's attention spans are so short that they want to get the information as quickly as possible. And in order for Google to give people what they want, they need to have that information right at the top. So yes, from a business perspective, it would be great to force people to scroll through. But in this age of instant gratification, I don't know that that is something that would be a good long-term strategy for Google, especially when you now have ChatGPT and Perplexity that can give you answers right as you type them in. So it's all going to be about finding the information as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Well, that's that's the world we live in right now. But hopefully, maybe one day Google will think, okay, I got to think about the bloggers. So maybe let's put the AI overviews at the end. But now, Lindsay, it has been a phenomenal discussion. I really liked the whole, the answers you gave, and it was. I think it should be very, very helpful for everybody who would be listening to this podcast. I wanted to talk about how I can track ROI using UTMs tracking through different channels when I'm doing so many, handling so many channels of marketing. But we're just short of time, and I believe we can sit again and talk about that in depth as well, because that is also very, very important. If you have anything to tell my audience, and I have failed to ask, so please, you have the floor.
Well, I would just appreciate having the time to talk with you today. It's always fun to get into the weeds on how SEO is impacting law firms and businesses in general in all these different markets, especially with this new emerging technology. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about lead attribution. It is such a complicated thing to try to sift through, especially when you have so many different marketing strategies, because rarely does a law firm just employ one marketing strategy. Yeah. So finding that lead attribution and figuring out the best ROI can be a whole big discussion. So I look forward to having that conversation with you down the road. Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Lindsay, for coming to the show. We will be putting links so you can contact Lindsay. She's a wonderful person, very, good, warm-hearted. So, and also you can, Lindsay, can you tell me about your website so people can actually see and visit your SEO company's website as well?
Absolutely. So my website is optimizemyfirm.com. And while you're there, you can check out my podcast, The Personal Injury Marketing Minute. We also just finished writing a book all about how personal injury attorneys get leads, what works, what doesn't, and why. So find all of those cool resources on my website, optimizemyfirm.com.
Yeah. So also my last message is, please do not fall prey to all the messages you get on LinkedIn and emails. Research through podcasts. People have been giving you the right information, or at least book a consultation with the right people so they give you the right advice before you dive deep into this yourself or you hire them. So Lindsay, again, thank you so much. Lovely having you today. We'll talk soon.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.